Okay, scrappers. I'm just going around the corner here because I noticed when I went for a little walk that there's a TV on the side of the road, and normally I wouldn't pick them up, but it's a vintage old television. There it is there. No, it's an old Kriesler. Still got the cord. Just out of interest's sake, I think it's going to rain anyway tonight, so I might take it. We'll scrap it out, just have a look what's inside these old ones. It's been a while since I've done a vintage. There we go. It's not hard rubbish season, so people that are leaving TVs out in the street, they just basically sit there and rot. No one's going to pick it up, and all that's going to happen is some kids are going to come along and smash it up. And so I do my little bit for recycling and for the environment. I pick it up off the street, I'll get to scrap it out, so why not just take it. All right. Yeah, it looks all right. I'll look it up and see what year it was made. I know these were made here in Australia back in the 70s, so we're looking at least 40 years old. Everything's nice and empty in this driveway. Cages, everything's empty, so it's quite a relief actually not to have scrap metal or anything lying around. All right. Yeah. Designed and made in Australia by Kriesler, Australasia. So, pretty cool. Solid state. I'll just clean up my bench here, all this insulation, and I'll put it on the bench and we'll scrap it out. Okay, let's have a look what's inside this TV. Hopefully we get some copper, eh? I think this TV's from the early 70s, so, you know, or around the mid 70s. So we're looking at 40 years old. It's pretty old for a TV. you know, considering that it was still in someone's house or somewhere. Wow. Oh, the size of the yoke is unbelievable. It's almost 8 inches across. Okay, well, I've got 2 sets of boards here. Looks interesting. Okay, well, that's a nice little board. Got the little flyback transformer there. I just all right. That's really cool. It looks, yeah, there's a huge box down here. Looks like there's some boards in there as well. There's another one here with another board. Looks like another power board kind of thing. Got this, even the board is got branded as Kriesler, so it's their own board, so there's no imported sort of stuff. They made these here in Australia and you know, made everything, even the actual circuit boards. And there's a huge crystal here. It's giant. This side, it's a nice big board. It doesn't really have a lot. It's actually very clean for 40 years old. It was obviously in a clean environment in the house, but yeah, we do have some really good copper spools here, so they'll be okay. Some boards. Interesting. Some resistors. Pretty old school. Nothing much. I'd imagine, yeah, this solder could even be silver. It wouldn't surprise me, but yeah, it doesn't look like it's lead, but you know, who knows. These really old boards, you know, yeah, you can get lead inside them, a lot of lead solder, so, but all right. So they're a lot more interesting than the newer CRTs. Not that any CRTs are really new these days, but wow, a lot of, you know, very different wiring. How's that? That's a huge little tube there. It's some nice copper coils again. So we'll get a bit of copper out of this. We'll check out the Debossing cable. They look pretty thick as well. I'm assuming that they're going to be copper. Wow. Oh, look at the size of that yoke. Didn't take much to actually take it out. Wow. I mean, I've probably done about 3,000, over 3,000 CRTs over the years, probably nearly 4,000 coming onto now. And this one is probably the biggest yoke I've ever seen. Look at that. So we've got these two copper pieces here, and then inside we're going to have some nice copper as well. But just think, like, a little bit of brass. This TV was, you know, thrown outside on the street, and it's not even hard rubbish season, so it was only going to be left there to rot, pretty much. And so, you know, maybe eventually the council, you know, might have picked it up and sent it to landfill. But, you know, there's, just in this yoke alone, there's so much copper in here. What a waste and a shame for it to go into landfill. You know, when I'm finished with all this and I take all the valuable stuff out of it, you know, this is going to go to the transfer station, and they're going to recycle this properly. You know, even the timber, everything will get recycled properly. So, you know, there's a lot of wiring in here, so it's you know, it's just such a big waste. And, you know, I'd hate to think how many TVs are actually in landfills. There must be like 1 billion televisions, even more, in landfill. So that's a real shame. Not so much for the value, but the fact that you know, it's damaging the environment. You know, I mean, in that tube there'll be a lot of lead. You know, it's not lead that we can just get out and melt down. It's lead within the glass. So like a lead oxide or whatever it is. So it's a different kind of lead, but it's just as toxic. Here's one of the Debossing cables. Actually, this Debossing cable feels quite light. It's actually, I'm pretty sure this is going to be aluminium. I reckon this is the first TV with an aluminium Debossing cable that I've found in probably 400 TVs. You know, I get some people saying, oh, they get, you know, every TV that they've gotten is aluminium. You know, I don't see that. And yeah, as I said, this one's the first one in a long time where it's aluminium. And I can tell just by the weight and the size. Like this size, this should be, this should weigh over a pound, and it doesn't. So it's going to be aluminium. So we've got some copper wire leading to it. Yeah. In fact, even this this wire here is aluminium. So you can see it's actually blue, this one. Wow, it looks really pretty. I might actually keep this because it's very clean and there's no sticky substance. Because as you know, there's no value as you know, I can throw this in with aluminium, but there's only you know, 50 grams, and so there's no value as far as it's only like, it's not even worth, it's worth about 5 cents. So but sometimes I need wire, and just for the garden, you know, I can use this, and because it's aluminium, sits in the garden and doesn't actually rust. So if I can scratch it. You can probably see that, the aluminium inside. So yeah, it's a very rare occasion that I get aluminium. As I said, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, I pulled out, you know, the Gossan cables and they were all aluminium. You know, a lot of people even say the yokes they get are aluminium. I mean, even less. There's very few yokes that are aluminium. You know, I'd say, you know, if you get, I'd say 1 in 10 with aluminium Gossan cable will have a aluminium yoke. But as you can see, that's definitely copper, and I can just feel it. It's really heavy, really nice. So we'll get probably, who knows, 2 pounds of copper out of this nearly. But that's a shame. I got 2 of them. But it's no big deal. It's, you know, it's only 1 yoke, and yeah, so the same deal. So I'll keep this just in the workshop as workshop wire for the garden, anything. You know, sometimes aluminium wire might come in handy. So there's no loss, but you know, if you didn't have any use for it, then just as scrap aluminium, yeah, you know, there's only 5 cents, 10-cent value in each one. But that's okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, we've got a cord. That's going to give us a little bit of copper. All right. Get out this box. Okay, it's got a really big capacitor in there and a transformer. It's just a power board. Okay. See if I can take this off. Let's have a look at the board. Okay, just needed to take off the door, and the whole board just slides out. It's a huge capacitor there. Another small one. There's a transformer. Looks like it's just going to throw this transformer in. There's a bit of copper there we can get. Bit of aluminium. Just a little bit of basic circuitry. So not a great deal special here, but still it's a power board. Get some value out of it. Okay, this shielding is just steel. All right. Well, there's quite a lot of wiring here. Try and rip as much as I can out. It's actually put together quite nice. All the wires just, you know, nicely clipped in. Just basic connectors. But yeah. I might see if I can get this thingo out. It looks like, obviously it's the main controls. It's even got speaker in there. Okay, so it's just a little tilt lid. There's a board under there, and then it's just your speakers, and then, well, it's quite a few boards. It's gonna take a little bit to get this out, so bear with me. Okay, had to use one of these giant Phillips screwdrivers just to get in there to undo the screws. Wow. So there we go. It's the main control, the speaker. Not much of a circuit board here either. Yeah. Such complicated wiring. It's real spaghetti-ish, and geez, no wonder television repairs, you know, were so expensive back in the day, because just the amount of labor having to take out a few things here and then putting it all back together. It must have been a real nightmare, you know. Configuration kind of thing. Whew. Wow, no mucking around there. A lot of stuff. I suppose doing this one on the street, you probably, the only thing you would have gotten out quickly was the yoke. It virtually just slid off. I didn't have to undo any screws. So yeah, if this was scrapped out on the street, that's the only thing they would have got, even though they would have been pretty happy with the amount of copper that they got out of that. But the Gossan cable being aluminium, and it just would have taken too long and been too complicated to try and take out all this wiring on the street. So okay. Yeah, so it's pretty much just scrap metal this. I can take this board out and sell that as a power board, because we've got a little bit of copper on there and resistors and stuff, so yeah, get away with power board with that, but not a great deal on this part. Okay, so what we got left is quite a decent wad of wire, and that's about it. Just this circuit board here. And there we go. So for those guys that were waiting to see if I was going to get zapped, well, the TV probably hasn't been turned on in 20 years, but who knows? Like I said, done, you know, thousands of TVs, and I've never gotten zapped. So you know, obviously I take safety precautions in disconnecting the flyback transformer, and also disconnecting the you know, the main cable from the tube to the flyback transformer. So once you've done that, there's no real power connection. You know, the other argument is, oh well, capacitors hold residual power, but I just haven't found it. You know, yet, you know, virtually every guy that, you know, virtually every unknown scrapper comes along and say, oh, I got shocked, you know, I did a TV and I got shocked. Well, you must be the unluckiest scrapper around, but not the only one, because apparently there's hundreds of yous that have been shocked. Yet I know a lot of scrappers myself, and guys that scrap TVs out on the street all the time. And I've never heard of anyone getting zapped. So, you know, either you're very unlucky or just making up stories for the hell of it. So there we go. There's the main power board, circuit board, whatever you want to call it. I guess it's an old school circuit board. I've got a sort of like slot cards, but not really. They're not even gold pins. They might be, who knows. But we've got a couple of little removable IC chips, so we'll definitely get them. There we go, a couple more. So not bad. Yeah, but yeah, that's probably the best thing there is the copper spool. A couple of smaller ones, that's not bad either. So I'll definitely take them, and I'll just throw the rest into power boards and let them get any value that they can get out of it. But, yeah. Alright, and there's our wad of wire. It's not bad. It's about 2.5 pounds, close to 3 pounds, I suppose, once we add it all up. So still something. Almost forgot. We've got that one board there. It's actually got a couple more slot kind of cards. It's got one removable IC. So we're getting a few IC chips. And the huge crystal. Look at the size of that one. That's a nice big one. Another removable IC. Another slot. Nothing on that one. A little bit of copper that we can pluck out. There's no crystal in there. Even got these little things here that might have something. Oh yeah, get another couple of IC chips there. Another one there. And that's about it. All right. Quite a intricate. It's very spiky, this one. Definitely looks like, you know, it's definitely a handmade. It's the Kriesler. Actually, in the side tube here, this is common with the old TVs. They put the manuals and they leave the manuals inside. So Okay, gives us a bit more information on the brand. Okay, well, this date of issue is 1976, so it's about right. It's about 42 years old, this TV. Pretty interesting. Wow. Got the whole deflection board layout. Chrominance board. So yeah, they had their own little... Pretty interesting. Alright guys, well, that was the Kriesler Made in Australia TV. So it was made in Australia and scrapped in Australia, and it's actually going to go and get recycled in Australia, and there you go. So it's a pure Australian TV, probably except for the Philips. Don't know where this but that tube, if there's anything good in these tubes, there would definitely be whatever that is in this one. This is big. It just looks really insane inside, but obviously we don't want to break that. So there we go. All right guys, well, I'll just have a look at what we ended up getting. Okay, so there's our TV ready to go to the transfer station. Obviously I don't just take one television. I wait until I've got, I just went there actually a few days ago, so dropped off a lot of cardboard boxes and just one TV. So I just wait until I've got enough cardboard boxes and LCD screens and stuff like that, and general batteries, things. When I've got a van load of stuff to take to the transfer station, that's when it will go. So it might sit around for a couple of weeks until then, but it'll get there in the end. And so what we ended up with, well, wasn't too bad, I suppose. So we've got a collection of, they're basically just power boards in the end. Not a great deal of value in the power boards, but I did get a few IC chips and that big crystal. So, you know, just a few IC chips to add to the bucket. And sometimes, you know, these old IC chips can be quite good, even for resale, or, you know, just reasonably okay for gold recovery. But there's still, you know, a bit of copper on here to take off. I've got a good little spool here. That's a nice little spool. Got some good copper there. It came off nice and easy. There we go. So I can put that into my melt bucket. You know, there's about, I don't know, like 5 or 6 ounces there. But there's a few spools a little bit smaller like that. So, you know, we'll get some copper there, that's for sure. We've definitely got a good wad of insulated copper wire. I still got to take off the plugs before I throw it into the bin to send to the scrapyard. But yeah, probably actually one thing that turned out reasonably interesting was this sort of control panel thing. These little switches and stuff. So this circuit board here is actually all gold plated, and it's quite nice gold plating on this. So I mean, we've obviously still got, you know, lead solder or whatever it is. I'm not really sure what the solder is. So, you know, I'll try and remove as much of these pins as possible and the little resistor there, and, you know, just clean up all the junk. Yeah, and like hydrochloric acid or something will remove the rest of that solder and hopefully lift off these gold foils. And there's just a little little switches here. You can see that's a good little silver blob. And you can see the difference with silver to say tin or whatever is that silver is not shiny, you know, it's like a flat white metal. And the little pins here, the little contact pins that contact these gold plates, they're also gold plated pins. So there's a few of them here, one for each one of these dials. But yeah, so a little bonus. I wasn't expecting much gold out of this, but you know, that's definitely a gold plated board, and you know, reasonably okay. So a little bit of a bonus, hey, can't complain with that. I'm sure there's quite a lot of silver and stuff traces there, but leave that to the expert recyclers, you know, just sell the boards as power boards. I've got my huge copper yoke, so really happy with this yoke. It's giant. That's almost 8 inches across, and obviously we're going to have some copper in there as well, 2 large pieces, so that's pretty good. Oh wow, I didn't see that before. We've actually got 3 sets of these spools, nice and heavy. You got ferrite in there, but yeah, a bit extra copper there, so that's a bonus. So yeah, really good copper there. And the only other thing was the Debossing cables, which unfortunately in this case it's just aluminium debossing cable. A very unusual blue, actually a really nice, almost like an anodized blue. Really nice color. As you've seen here, you can see I scratched it and you can see the aluminium, but as I was saying, it's very rare for me anyway to find aluminium debossing cables. It does happen. Certainly didn't expect it in a television that's 42 years old, but hey, you know. So as I said, this is good for just to throw it into your regular domestic aluminium, or what I'm going to do, as I said, is just going to keep it as actual, you know, garage wire. And you know, I'll keep this one in its protector to keep it, you know, dust free and clean, in case I actually really need aluminium wire for something electrical. You never know, one day. But this one, yeah, I'll just use this in the garden because it doesn't rust, and it just comes in handy for tying up stuff, and it's actually nice and soft and good for plants. Won't damage the plants. Yeah, so there you go. So not a bad little score out of that TV. And like I said, the motivation of me picking it up was not about the value here. I knew I wasn't going to get big bucks in value, you know, although we do have what, probably, you know, $10 to $12 in copper and power boards and stuff, but it wasn't about the $10 to $12 in this case. It was just that, you know, I saw it on the side of the road when I was coming back from the shops, and I thought, oh, I'm going to go back and pick that up. It's just around the corner. And I couldn't bear to just leave it there and wait, you know, and see it a few days later and some kids have smashed it all up, or, you know, because it's only timber and it's very soft timber. And, you know, it's going to rain later on today and probably tomorrow. And so, you know, it was all going to get mushed up, and you know, next time someone went to pick it up, it was just going to probably collapse. You know, that's how soft and brittle the actual timber is on this. So, and you know, it was definitely heading for landfill, because no one was going to take that to the transfer station. And So, and like I said, there's no hard rubbish at the moment, so that's not until July, so you know there's a way to go for that. So as well as getting this value and keeping all this, you know, stuff out of landfill, like there's going to be a lot of lead in here and all that, you know, so you know it does, you know, I've just done a little bit for the, you know, environment, you know, and that main thing, we've got that big lead tube, you know, it's a lot of lead that would have went into landfill, and you know we've got enough in there as it is, so at least this stuff is all going to get properly recycled and sent to the right place. So you know, the people that actually own the television should actually, you know, be a little bit more responsible rather than just throwing it out. It's actually illegal to just throw rubbish out on the street like this, like hard rubbish, if it's not booked as hard rubbish. So if you don't call the council and you know, book a yearly pickup, then it's actually illegal. It's just dumping on the street. So they could have been fined as well, and yet people take that risk, you know. And we do have transfer stations. There's one just up the road. It's not far, where people can drop off their televisions, you know. So yeah, I don't understand. There's just you know, not very good communication as far as the councils to the general public is concerned. Most people aren't aware that they can take their stuff to a transfer station and get it properly recycled. But this one is, and we've certainly got a nice bonus of copper to for me to melt into ingots. All right, guys. Well, keep scrapping, have fun, and I'll catch you next time.